when I started this call, this door was shut.
Ooh.
And my cat is very interested in whatever is going on all of a sudden. She has not been in this room for probably 3 days, but sat down to film something and she was like, hey, I'm around. I need to be on camera.
Most cats know when the party's about to start.
Yeah. Well, my other one's just in bed and could care less. But my little chunky cat, she's like, all right, let's do this. You know, I hear you're filming.
Well, you know, as good cats should know, they should know when the party's down. So Friday night, here we come. I think the whatever audience that we have should know that we started off with a kind of a test podcast, and I think the most fascinating thing that came out of that was Amy's first introduction to brass band. Just blew me away. It's like, wow, first time that you're ever gonna play in a brass band is gonna be with the Black Dyke Band.
Yeah, baptism by fire, right?
Yeah, for real. It's like, well, it can only go down from here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was set to start with Best of the Barn. I think like the following week, but my best friend at the time texted me. I think it was like a Friday night or something, and he texted me and said that Dave Thornton's at the bar and he's looking for a euphonium to sub for Black Dyke. So I was already in bed, halfway asleep, hopped out of bed, got dressed, went to the bar that happened to be like right across the street from the school, and positioned myself right behind Dave Thornton as he was getting his drink. And he turned around and said something like, fancy seeing you here. And I'm thinking, yeah, fancy seeing me here. And he said, oh, I need a euphonium player to sub for Black Dyke. Can you make it? And I was like, yes, I can. So that was my first experience in a brass band. Yeah.
Right time.
So was it a situation where like you're like acting like you're going to get a drink and like, oh, hey, you're here, you are like.
Yeah, totally. I saw him getting a drink, so I just stood right behind him like I was waiting to get up to the bar, and he turned around with his drink and was like, oh, hey.
Did you eventually get it? Did you get a drink?
I'm sure I did. I mean, it was like the dive. It was like the dive bar, like across the street where all the students went. And yeah, I'm sure I got a drink.
Because in those situations, I always find it like, I could care less about what I drink. Like, I am a kind of person who I would love to go, get a nice beverage of some sort. But also, I'll drink a champagne of beers. Like, it doesn't matter, right? But when I'm in one of those situations, I feel like I'm being judged, necessarily. Like, you're almost in like a pseudo job interview where you're like, all right, I got to sub, so I got to look good in front of this person. So I got to like make sure I get a beer that's like socially acceptable, or a beverage that's socially acceptable. And so like that would be the most intimidating part. I'm probably playing less in terms of my social anxiety. It would be more of just like presenting myself initially to get the job, because I don't want him to be like, look at me and be like, he got a sour. I'm not going to ask him this stuff.
I mean, he was already one of my professors. So we'd already spent some time together. Also, this was a bar that served liquor in fish bowls. So it wasn't a really high class establishment to begin with. So I don't know what drink. I'm sure I did not get a fish bowl, but I'm sure I did order something. And then I probably, to be honest, went back to bed because I was already like halfway asleep.
You were already on time, so you were 5 hours behind.
Somebody listening to this is now very irritated by that statement, Amy, because they're like, my dad's establishment sells fishbowl beverages, and I'll have you know, the niche of the fishbowl beverage.
The connoisseur
of sorts, one might say.
Yes.
What do you put in a fishbowl beverage?
Typically fish. Oh, beverage.
I think it was some sort of, I don't know. I really.
It's always something like a blue Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
where you can put fruit chunks in it or something like along those lines.
They put
Yeah,
gummy sharks in it and stuff.
probably. I don't remember. It was who knows how many years ago. And to be honest, I think that that bar is now gone. I checked it out last time I was in Manchester, and it's gone, and it's so sad because it was the hangout. There was like graffiti on the walls in the bathrooms about the last brass band competition and stuff, and a whole bunch of banders would hang out at that bar after contests and stuff. And alas, it no longer exists.
Well, that's not surprising considering they were resorting to filling up fish bowls to get rid of drinks.
And they were relying on brass band. Actually, well, never mind. Their sales are probably okay if they're relying on brass band people.
Exactly.
There's only so many seasons though. Do I genuinely don't know. Do brass bands in the UK take off the summer? Like, do they have a seasonal thing, kind of like orchestras do around here, or do they kind of go year round?
They have the summer concerts and the park type stuff. And there's Whit Friday. Um, and so I think that's in the spring. I forget.
It like just happened, right?
Good Friday's in June, like early June usually, and it bounces around for a couple of weekends like Easter does, depending on the.
Yeah, because it's linked to Easter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think most bands will mirror the school calendar as they do with most things. When there's a week holiday or a bank holiday, the bands are either off or taking that opportunity to tour. And a lot of bands are probably off in the month of August and get back together. At least the championship bands that are going to the British Open get back together to prepare for the Open 2 or 3 weeks or couple weeks before the Open. And then that's the Open and the finals, and then brass and concert. You're going to be the three big ones that they take care of in September, October, and November. So August is probably the deadest month, from what I understand.
So Amy, I saw that you just you had a rehearsal.
Yeah. Dublin Metro Brass Band invited me over for a rehearsal, and they were very kind to invite me. And yeah, so I went, and one of my students, Emmett, went, and Emmett's gonna keep playing with the band. It's probably like a maybe third section band that Dublin it's kind of under the Dublin, like empire. I don't know. They have the youth brass band camp. They have Dublin. There's just tons of stuff going on there.
Band, the brass band, the Metro band. Yeah, they have a lot of. I think they even have a community band, a concert band too.
Yeah.
Maybe a dance troupe. If not, they should get one.
Yeah, so we went, and I think my student's going to keep playing with them, and it was really nice to kind of get to know some people in my new area. I just moved to Columbus, so I'm trying to get out there and meet people, and it was a great opportunity to do that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. My band's been rehearsing, essentially since the weather broke. It's the Triangle Brass Band, and we're outside in a picnic shelter, so we have covering. But since, for maybe a month and a half, we've been maybe about a month or so, we've been rehearsing. We had a good rehearsal this week. That each week more and more people are comfortable showing up. So, we're over the 20 player, maybe about 24 players, maybe 26 players showing up now. So, it's really cool to play every Wednesday night. We're going to work up a program and do a concert in June.
I was gonna ask, what do you work like? What program are you working up?
Well, I'm kind of piecing together some things, since we really have been, not really seriously rehearsing in over a year. So I've kind of been approaching it with, I'll pick some stuff and let's play it, and let's just keep the chops going and stuff that's manageable and not really pushing the band too hard. And now that we're kind of getting into it, I'm honing in on some things that are going to test the band, work on some things that we probably need to develop skill-wise, and put together an outdoor concert that would be a little bit entertaining. So right now we're doing the Dan Price American Tale. We put a good amount of work on that this week. We're doing Superman March. We did a video project of prismatic light, and so we're going to play that live. And next week we're going to tear into Knight Templar, get a little bit more of a, face pounding, And we've also done Semper Fidelis, so it's kind of an eclectic program. And each week I'm going to throw in a couple more things, and just kind of it's going to be an eclectic program. It's not going to be a theme concert of any sort. It's just going to be stuff that you can get away with outdoors, and just keeps the band playing and gets us building. But then we're going to take the summer off, because the band usually doesn't rehearse in the summers here. So once we get through the June concert, then we'll be dark again until late August, when we start up for the fall, and hopefully we'll be back to normal at that point, rehearsing indoors and preparing for the stuff we usually do.
How many concerts do you normally play?
Not many. When I first started directing the band, we were doing like 14, 15 concerts a year. It was very busy. We were not rehearsing a lot, but we were doing a lot of concerts. And some of the concerts we would do twice. We would do like a Friday night in one part of the triangle and Saturday night in another part of the triangle, or something like that. And it just got to be too busy of a schedule for the players in the band. So we've cut it down. We do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 or 5. That's about it. But one of them is we've tried to focus on going to NABA and developing the skill of the band by competition, and getting back to the roots of brass banding, and hitting some competitions whenever we could manage that. So that takes January through mid-April, as one long chunk where you don't have to worry about anything except the two pieces that you're working on for the competition. So that takes quite a bit of time where you're not really concertizing. So what about Tampa? You guys are practicing too, right?
Yeah, we got a concert in 2 weeks. We have our dress rehearsal Tuesday, because we rehearse weekly, so it's just every Tuesday. And I've made the band to where, like, I tried my best when I'm making the schedule to, like, not mess up anybody's schedule if at all possible. So we are always Tuesday 7 to 9, always Tuesday 7 to 9. Concert, it starts at 7:30. Your call time 7. Right, like it's always just so it's the same thing, except one day you show up in black with crazy socks. That's essentially what we do. So yeah, we have our dress next time.
What time is our concert? I hate that. What time is our concert?
It's still 3 years. We've done the same thing. Like every single time, I'm like 7 o'clock. It's just Tuesdays at 7's brass band time. Just put it in your calendar. Just know it, and I'll tell you when we're done. Right, and still get the question every single time. Not from subs. It's the subs typically know what they're doing. It's the tenured guys who are like, hey, when are we supposed to do the thing again? I'm like, Ryan. There's no Ryan in the band, but like Ryan, my guy. Lay off the burritos, man. You like they're messing up with your brain.
Too many fish bowls.
Yeah, too many fish bowls, man.
Do you do your concerts on Tuesday night as well?
Yeah. So everything stays on Tuesday. I mean, we eventually want to become. We're kind of looking at the Pittsburgh band. What's their name? It's escaping me right now.
The what?
The one in Pittsburgh, is it River
City?
Yeah, and like kind of looking at their because I think they're a little bit of a per service group. They kind of operate like a lower tier orchestra would operate, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And we're looking at that as a model for where we want to be in like a decade or two. And so eventually we would go into more, but we're just always Tuesdays. We come and we have so many Salvation Army people and so many band people that like we just gave up on summer. Like they're just everybody's away on a Disney cruise because they are. It's just the way it is. But yeah, so yeah, we're getting ready. We're pushing the cornets a little bit because we're doing the Enter the Galaxies, which is probably the wiggliest thing they've ever seen. Especially the trumpet players in the band. They're like, hold on.
Yeah, last year when I went over to the Open, the gala concert was Black Dyke and Corey Band, who came in first and second that year, and they did Enter the Galaxies combined. So the Cornette Solo and Tom Hutchinson and who's the principal of Black Dyke now? Cornette. The name escapes me right now, but the two of them did it as a duet, and it sounded like it was just one player.
Yeah, my guys are like, I didn't practice the Arbin's arpeggio this way. Like, like they're looking at it like that. And then shine as the light is like the big, like it's kind of them. It stinks because we were getting ready for Year of the Dragon, for the concert that the pandemic took from all of us.
Right. That's a great pandemic tune, by the way. Yeah, let's work on that during a pandemic.
Well, yeah, you got all of a sudden our E flats have notes that they've never seen before. Just they have that many stems. I never saw that before. Especially just and that's the thing is we have so many Salvation Army guys who are very used to the typical Salvation Army fare, and they do great, and they're so used to the way bands sound. And then I've got a lot of people who are fantastic players, but like Lincolnshire Posey is the hardest thing they ever saw for their particular instrument. And so we've been kind of like everybody's great musicians, but it's learning the genre has been our big thing, and so this concert has been digging back into that and and we're also we have an interim music director right now, and so feeling things out and moving around, and then the summer is going to be a fun time of reorganizing things because it seems like we should be able to get back to business in the fall, like regularly back to business.
That's
fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's what the hope is. Do you get to practice in a school or a church or a community center? Like where do you practice?
So the Salvation Army of Tampa has been really nice to us, and they let us rehearse and perform there.
Okay, that's helpful because they didn't shut down at all during the pandemic, did they?
The Salvation Army?
Yeah,
they could. I mean, because they provide so many services to the community that they were considered essential for the most part. Is the church services slowed down. It's my understanding. Like they had to limit the amount of people, and they were cautioning like older people coming in and stuff like that. And so they went very, very digital. So I got to go on the live chat and make fun of my buddies who were in the band during church services and make But I mean, it looks like the Florida camp is happening. The conservatory is happening here in Florida.
Yeah.
So I'm excited too because I've had students in my studio who all want to do it. They all want to go and be camp counselors because they don't know any better. And so hopefully they're going to get that opportunity this year.
Well, camp counseling is the best, man.
Yeah.
When you're 20, maybe.
I did that. When you're that age, I did it when I was in college, and I was at Brevard Music Center. I was a counselor for a couple of years there. One of the cool things when I was a counselor is Chris Martin was a student camper in my cabin.
Really?
little 16-year-old trumpet player. Yeah. He probably wouldn't even remember that.
No, I was a camp counselor in like a church camp, and did 1 year like in the woods, and then I switched over and I did day camp. Traveled around the state, different city each week. Did homestays. It was kind of cool.
What state was this in?
I'm from Ohio, so this was in Ohio. So we traveled all over Ohio, and then just we stayed at different people's houses each week. And sometimes you're staying in like a little like motel, and there's some that you're staying at some like huge house. And I have a picture of me practicing I think it was the Spark Concerto. I was barefoot in my PJs at this like trucker's motel, practicing euphonium, using the brochure stand as my my music stand. I believe I had purple hair at the time too. So it really is a great picture. And so whenever my students say that they're traveling or whatever, sorry, can't practice, I just dig out that photo. Like, yes, you can.
Stop tour.
There's a wonderful man. I still remember he had some fantastic curry that his wife had made, and we shared some curry because he said, that he just loved being serenaded. So the two of us just hung out that night. It was great times.
That's really fun.
In my PJs at the motel with the euphonium.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the way. I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like I'm teaching brass methods right now, right, at the University of Tampa. And we had playing exams. And you never know, they're playing Essential Elements number 14. They're not doing anything wild and crazy, kids.
Right.
And you never know how long that's going to take because, a kid who normally plays trumpet who's puffing around on tuba, they're going to be okay. But like your vocalist who's like trying to hum while they play the trumpet at the same time, you're going to be in there for a little bit longer. And so like I got back into the habit of like, oh, I'm just going to practice for 5 minutes here while I wait for the next person. And like, I feel like a lot of really busy musicians, that's like what we have to do essentially is just like 15 minutes here is better than no minutes any other time, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have two little kids. So my practice time happens when it happens sometimes. And when it really needs to happen, we hire a babysitter or something, we get help so that I can practice. But like the normal everyday stuff, it happens when it happens. And I'm telling you, you get really efficient with your time when your kid could wake up at any moment.
Can you write that off? Babysitter for practice expenses? Yeah.
Oh, I haven't tried. But that's an interesting question.
We're all freelance, right? Can we talk about the fun thing of like being freelance, of how you can like essentially manipulate anything to being a tax writable thing?
I've taken I'm doing a music and art series right now with the little kids online, and we listen to a piece of music, and we create art. It's inspired by that music. So we listen to the final movement of Mozart's Jupiter Symphony, and we make like a watercolor we do like a stained glass watercolor with 5 colors. And like Beethoven's Fifth, we have one painting that's stamping like bingo stamper things, and one that's smooth for like the first theme is dun 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 stomp 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 stomp, and then the other one is smooth watercolors. So I'm fully planning on taking my watercolors off on my taxes for next year.
Yeah. Oh, and Aaron, people might hear this. The NSA might be listening.
I feel like right now they have bigger things to worry about than my tuba playing self.
They should. Amy, are you associated with Athena Brass Band?
Yeah. The board just decided for Gettysburg, we're still going to play at Gettysburg, but it's going to be chamber groups. So it makes it easier for smaller groups to rehearse. And it made it so that people who wanted to go could go, and people who didn't want to go, were kind of off the hook. So yeah, they're going to do that. And so I emailed back and said that I wanted to do that because I'll be fully vaccinated at that point, and my parents are fully vaccinated so they can watch the kids when I go. And they were actually, the big thing was Athena was asked to play at Midwest. And obviously that last year was canceled. And so everyone was pretty disappointed. But the group was asked back for this upcoming December. So yay.
That's great.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
How does in under normal circumstances, not necessarily the chamber music festival that you're going to do this year, but under normal circumstances, how does the band generally function, rehearse, put programs together, things like that?
Jessica Sneeringer is like fantastic. She works. Laura Lineberger is also doing a lot behind the scenes. And they put together, the program, and then they seem to contact section leaders and kind of say, this is kind of what I was thinking for the section, but because the sections kind of changed here and there. And so we get our music in advance, and we have very, very little rehearsal time. So when we played like what is it? Sparks Dragon
Yeah, the dragon.
Year of the Dragon. There we go. When we played Year of the Dragon, we did like run through, spot check, run through.
Like a real gig.
We're good to go. We're good to go.
Like a real orchestra.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think at the last IWBC, we basically had enough time to do each piece, run through, check, run through, and then some of the more difficult transitions and stuff we went through and checked them a few more times.
So you get
and that's pretty much it.
So if you play at a conference, you're getting there what, a day ahead of time and doing what, 2-hour rehearsals or what?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And that's about it. So I mean the music is championship level stuff usually. And so, you know, you just kind of you got to come prepared.
Yeah, Lord help you if you don't practice your music ahead of time. Jess is going to come down on you like a ton of bricks, huh?
Yeah, I'm sure. No, she's a wonderful person, but you know, like you have to have your stuff ready, because if you don't have it ready, you're not putting that together.
Yeah.
In those 4 hours of rehearsal.
Yeah. Well, it's literally like an all-star ensemble. You know?
It
it's
is
a who's who.
I'm so honored to be a part of it. It's a fantastic group, and playing with that group and just hearing the talent. I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, the thing that's most impressive about that band to me is that we know that when you form a brass band, it takes a long time for it to sound like a brass band and to gel and get that. And you know, with a band that's essentially a pickup band that plays 2, maybe 3 concerts a year, and with 4 hours of rehearsal for each concert, it's hard to develop that cohesiveness as an ensemble that we expect of brass bands. And you know, it's just a testament to the skill of the conductor and the players in it, where they can, you know, like pros, just pull it off like that and make it sound like such a wonderful product. So it's, you know, that's always been really impressive to me about Athena. I don't know of many other groups that are figuring that model. Maybe Fountain City has transitioned to something a little bit like that recently. You know, not quite nearly to that extreme, but they do have a lot of players that come from out of town, you know, so they're limited in their rehearsal time as well. But you know, most brass bands function on a regular basis. So
yeah, I would say the only one that's probably close to what y'all are doing with Athena is probably like Battle Creek, I guess. I would assume
Battle Creek would be the only thing that I can think of.
Yeah, you get your music. What? How early? Like, do they send you your parts snail mail or like through PDF like 2 months ahead of time or like a month ahead of time? Like, how long do you have to panic practice and you can get it ready?
I don't remember. So Jessica sends out rehearsal notes. So like she knows, like she is going to look at this, and this. You know, this transition is going to go like this. This is going to be this tempo. This is going to be this tempo. Watch out for this rhythm. She is like on it. She's actually second to the only person who gave me more conductor's notes was Tim Rainish, who we used to get like a email after rehearsal with like boom, 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 boom. And we used to like crowd around the computer to like read his emails and like, oh, he said second clarinet. And we go and look, who's the second clarinet, and look and see who messed something up. No, but Jessica has like the list of exactly, you know, she's anticipating all of the trouble spots and how she wants to do everything. So you know exactly how things are going to go. And so you can rehearse with really great efficiency when we do get together. So we got our stuff well in advance. And I'm not going to say anything, but at the program that she ran by me as a possibility for Midwest, it's going to be quite ambitious. So it'll be really exciting and a really great program, and I can't wait to start working on it.
You guys have to follow the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rule that they have at Midwest. Like for every grade 4, 5, 6 piece you play, you have to play a grade 1, 2, 3.
They have, I know the board has gone through all of that stuff to carefully select the program. I know they had to do a little bit of back and forth because it's not all that it's not all that specific for brass band stuff.
Yeah, they don't think they have a standard lineup for brass band.
Right. So I mean, I think it gave them maybe some more freedom, but then some more trouble because they're trying to figure out how to fit everything into that format.
Yeah, I remember when Lexington Brass Band played at Midwest, we had some real easy, grade 2 brass band charts on there. And it was part of some formula that they had where, for every level this, you have to, and I think you also, everything that you play there has to be published and for sale or with a publisher that's demonstrating at the exhibits there at Midwest, which is everybody in the world, anybody. So,
right.
Like
right.
I know Philip Spark brings his stuff. I think Peter Graham brings his stuff over every year. Paul Lovett Cooper, like all these brass band guys still bring their stuff over there. So there's plenty of brass band music for sale at Midwest. So
when does Midwest? I can't remember. When does it normally take place?
It's always the weekend before Tuesday through Saturday before Christmas.
The best time to go to Chicago.
It's not. It's freezing, freezing cold. Do not go outside if you can help it. It's nasty. But, there's like 18,000 conference attendees at Midwest. If you go there, you're going to know somebody there, but you'll never see them unless you make plans to see them. And with it not, I haven't been since they moved out of the Hilton. It's been a long time since I rarely get to go now because I almost always have gigs that week and that weekend. So it's it's kind of a luck of the draw. It's been years since I've been able to get up to Chicago for that. But if until it used to be when you were at the Hilton, a lot of people would hang out at the bar at the Hilton. So you would just walk by there and you'd see lots of people that but the last time I went there, I was like, man, I hope I see so-and-so, and I hope I see so-and-so. And I didn't see anybody that I knew. And I was like, why? And then somebody's like, oh, there's 18,000 people here. I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's kind of a big conference. Yeah.
It is so big. Yeah. So I'm hoping someday, I would have gone this year. I didn't have any gigs.
I'm thinking
in a play.
Nobody did.
This upcoming one. So this one this next one will be my first one that I'll be able to make it to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Getting out of Florida is a pain in the butt in general. Like leaving Florida because it's already a 12-hour long state is kind of a pain. And then getting up into the Midwest beyond that is always like, and then also you go, in December, it's 72.
It's hard to leave that, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. We have FMEA like right around the corner, which is not a small conference in itself.
Yeah. Well, if you're lucky, that 72 will be a 27 and not a 17. I think it could be. But your first Midwest, like everybody remembers their first Midwest. I think because it's, it's such a, a unique thing. We just like, it's so big and there's so many things to see there and so many great performances, and they've done it. The process that they have for performing preparing all the school groups and military bands and community groups. It's a system. They have it down like clockwork. So it's such a well-run, massive event. That you'll see things. There's no year that you'll go there where you won't see something that you're like, wow, that's the most impressive thing I've ever seen. It's so great. I remember for a few years, I don't know if they still do it, but the Chicago Symphony Brass Section was doing a brass concert in Orchestra Hall during that week, and that was a massive highlight. You would go to that, and you get a 3-hour brass ensemble concert. with the Chicago Symphony players, they would bring in players from other orchestras, from the Detroit Symphony, from New York Philharmonic, from other places. I remember the year that I went, Gunther Schuller was there, and they did Gunther Schuller Symphony for brass. That was the principal horn, Dale Clevenger, conducted that, and the group just tore it up. And Gunther Schuller was there. Yeah, so it was really cool. So you'll if you do some research and figure out what's going on around there too. Usually the Chicago Symphony is doing something spectacular right around that time as well. I've heard some good concerts with them at that time.
I'm hoping to use it. What I'm hoping to do, because it's going to be used I'm hoping to leverage my doctoral project and see if I can't get a little like grant money from the university to use this as a research opportunity for the doctoral project. So, hopefully, I don't necessarily.
What is your doctoral project?
I am I'm going to write a book, kind of sort of, like a handbook type thing. Right now it's tentatively called The Band Parent's Guide. You can really think about it as a band parent for dummies type of a situation. I'm we all freelance. You get to, when you work in a bunch of different band programs and you work with a bunch of different students, you kind of see the communication differences between every band director. And you also see some common things that everybody kind of does. And you also see some common frustrations that parents have. So I am interviewing and working with a bunch of music education researchers at the university, a bunch of band directors, middle and high school, a bunch of band parents in various situations, like if they were in band when they were in school, if they were band booster presidents, if they were barely involved whatsoever and they just, bare minimum for their child. Everything to put together a handbook of like all of the thing, like if you, and it'll be digital as well, but essentially like you hear something like here down in the state where our band directors here love to use FMEA and Allstate interchangeably because Allstate takes place at FMEA. And teachers love to throw abbreviations out. And so my parents go, I don't know what he's talking about. And so they can literally crack that open and just go to an index and go, this is this thing. But also a section on like, what's the best way to purchase an instrument? Is renting to own a good option? What's that going to do to my credit even? Things like that. But also I got approached to be the treasurer for the band boosters. What's that going to do? What's that time commitment like? Because they don't think about it as essentially a 501c3. And like, don't put WD-40 on a trombone slide. Like things like that. Yes. That we laugh at it, but they don't necessarily, think about or know. And so just compiling that all into a nice compact resource that I will also do like presentations on. And it's all just in the name of like, making sure that there is less frustration so that the student can just have the best experience possible.
How are you going to get that into one book and not a 25-part encyclopedia?
It's mostly like, there's not going to be like, the chapters are going to be on topics, and that it's going to be essentially a big old Q&A type situation and a little bit of an explanation of sorts of things. And then also like a lot of TLDR type situations. And then for more information, go to this or check out this resource or do these sorts of things. So I'm not going to explain every possible thing to them, right? I'm just going to like try to bring it down to its simplest terms and then, provide if you want to go further indexes and things along those lines. Yeah. But it is going to be a challenge, and it's going to be coupled with a presentation that I'm going to take to band booster meetings and stuff like that. The idea is to go to like, say, JFK High School is having their first band booster meeting of the year. I can go in, talk about what the resource has, and do a little bit of a workshop for communication between both parties and how they can all work out with each other. And then here's this handbook to help those other things. And it's been fun to go back and talk to like private lesson students, parents who like graduated like 3 or 4 years ago, but they've been band booster parents for like 16, 17, I had a lot of parents who like had 4 kids and just like one would be a senior when another one would be a freshman.
Space them out. Yeah.
Yeah, so like there'd be schools that just could not get rid of the Johnsons or something, you know. They just could not
Right.
get rid of that family.
They could
And
haul people around
and so I
for.
get to talk to them and just be like, "Hey, what did you wish you knew, 12 years ago? What would have been really helpful before you got involved in this thing?" And I'm not going to answer all the questions. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And some of
It's just not.
The Johnsons probably outlasted 3 band directors.
It's so weird. Like here too, band directors are like, it's like high school band directors especially seem to be like college football coaches. Like there's always this carousel happening at all times. But where I'm from in Virginia, it was like a chief court justice. Like it was like they would get that job and that was their job. They would get that job at 22 and they would retire at like 72. They're just like, I can't hold the stick anymore. I'm out.
Is Virginia union?
I genuinely have no idea.
I don't either, but that sounds like a byproduct of unionization.
Well, it's also just like you're talking about marching bands that like 40 members is giant.
But there are
and still 30% of the school. You know what I mean? Like it's still like we're graduating classes of 65.
Right.
That's why there's reasons why after my graduate degree at James Madison, I moved back to Tampa because I need more people than cows to freelance, especially on this stupid thing.
In New Jersey, the school districts are like 3 miles square, and the schools are like tiny. The marching bands, just like you said, a lot of them are 30, 40 kids. And out in Ohio, you have 200 easily at these schools in their marching band. So that was a little bit of a shock to the system when we lived out in New Jersey to see these marching bands. They're trying to consolidate a lot of the school districts to cover a bigger area because so many of these schools are small. But everyone loves the school that they grew up at. So
they also
consolidating these districts.
They also don't want to go 30 miles up the road to go to the school.
Well, to be honest, I mean, New Jersey's so densely populated that instead of going 2 miles, you're going 7 miles, it's a very densely populated state. So, schools are jam-packed everywhere, but and then we moved back to Ohio and it was like your school district is 6 high schools and like 25 elementary schools or something like that. Whoa.
Meanwhile here they're like, and especially in South Florida where I graduated high school, it's like they'll build a school and by the time they get done building it, the population has boomed so much that they need to build another one.
Yeah,
like
here too.
They're constantly building for the amount of students that they have. Especially like where I came from, Port St. Lucie was like when you think about like the housing economic crisis that happened in 2008, Port St. Lucie is like why that happened. Because it was like the second fastest growing town, but there was nothing there. It was literally just houses that you could get a mortgage, at 14, I could have got a mortgage for it. And so like there were just so many kids going to like 3 schools in the county. So they had to build a bunch all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's Wake County here in Raleigh. It's 6th or something as the 6th largest school district in the country. There's 22 or 23 high schools in it. It's massive. And there doesn't seem to be any, the legalities of splitting some of it off to make it a little bit more manageable. I don't think it would ever happen. It would also create probably the biggest educational lawsuit you've ever heard of. If somebody tried to do a Texas independent school district type of thing here, it's too big. It's too big to break up.
So I meant to ask this earlier. When you say triangle, like for Triangle Brass Band, is there like a 3-city thing? Is it Raleigh, Charlotte? What's the other one?
Well, more or less. The triangle refers to what they call the Research Triangle Park, which is a tech corridor that was built in the late 60s, early 70s. Cisco, IBM, Lenovo, lots of tech companies, GlaxoSmithKline, pharmaceutical companies. And it's it's west of Raleigh and kind of east of Durham and Chapel Hill. So if you do kind of consider the triangle, you've got Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Durham. So you kind of got a little triangle there. But the like sometimes you get like the Tri-City area or the Piedmont or something like that. And here they kind of give it that moniker of the triangle, so everything around here is called triangle something, triangle brass
Man,
band.
you guys were able to you guys got way more creative with your name than we were able to get.
Tampa Brass Band.
Yeah, we were like, all right, how many B's can we put in our abbreviation? Tampa Bay Brass Band. Oh, that's a mouthful.
Well, what's funny is that our incorporations are the Triangle British Brass Band. So we're technically TBBB, BBBBBB. There's so many B's.
When we were talking about naming it, because so Tampa's, if you guys don't know this, Tampa's nickname, like, it's a little thing, is Cigar City. That's their big thing. And I was like, well, we can't go around with the brass band named Cigar City Brass Band. That's a great name for a brass band if we were a sousaphone, tenor sax, New Orleans style brass band.
Right.
Not very much for a British style brass band.
If you called yourself the Free Beer Brass Band, you'd have no problem getting people to play in it.
We just couldn't rehearse at the Salvation Army, unfortunately. They might have a little bit of a problem with that. The Salvation Army presents the Free Beer Brass Band. Asterisk, no association with the Salvation Army.
Wow, the Salvation Army has gotten progressive. Yeah, well, naming a brass band a lot of times could be the hardest thing about starting a brass band.
I mean, I think when we were trying to name this podcast, it was it's been the longest thing we've discussed.
Wow. Naming
in comparison to anything else. Naming anything is hard.
It's funny when the Triangle Brass Band organization started our third youth band, the hardest part of doing that was naming it. The youth band director and I stood in front of my house tossing a football back and forth for months, trying to say, well, we can do this, but then it says this, and what do we do about this? And it took forever. It's like, you know what? We're not starting any more bands anymore because we don't know what to call it.
All right, then the ultimate question then, Amy, is it harder to name projects, things, establishments, or humans?
Oh man, I think it's probably, I mean, with naming humans, you have to, there's usually another person in the mix that you have to,
they also have books that tell you what the names are.
Right. So we went through, we had a huge long list of requirements for our kids' names. And we stuck with all of our requirements for our first kid's name. And then we broke a good half of them for the for the second one, because everything had to have you had to know how to spell it. You had to know if it was masculine or feminine. It had to be like a classic name, but not too popular. We went through all of this huge long list. So we kind of broke our own rules.
Let me tell you about a unisex name that has multiple spellings. It makes Starbucks trips really interesting. I've seen every spelling of my name I could possibly ever see.
Yeah.
That's why Aaron is always a great way to think of it.
So that skit worked out really well for 2 years. No one messed it up. There was a solid 2 years where no one messed it up. And then it just was not topical anymore. No one was thinking, I don't know what happened. But, and also it was really hard being a graduate student in music performance when the skit "You Done Messed Up Aaron" came out, because I would frack a note at JMU Brass Band. Joel Collier looks up at me, "You done messed up." I'm like, "Great, Joel, thanks. You're the only one who's ever made that joke. No one's ever made that joke before. You're so original. Ha 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 ha." Now I'm going to get back to Fragile Oasis. Leave me alone on my second baritone part.
That's hilarious. Well done, Aaron. Oh, that's funny. Present. That's funny. Yeah. So yeah, naming things is a very big challenge. You know, so if you ever have to start a group, man, come up with the name. Good luck.
And no matter what you do, you're always going to find out, you're going to find a better option years down the line.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's the crazy part, you know, because when you have, it's really tough when you have constraints in place, you know, because you have a youth band, we had a youth band program, and it was the Triangle Youth Brass Band. So we had a branding in place already for it. So we had to have something that still had triangle in it and still had youth in it so that it fit the branding of it. You know, so we had to find that other word. We eventually came up with the Academy, the Triangle Youth Academy Band. But we went through like just about everything you possibly could. But one of the things that also made it possible to do that is that we took one of our youth bands and renamed it the Watson Brass Band. So our top level youth band, which used to be called, when I was directing the band, it was the Triangle Youth Brass Band. The Triangle Youth Brass Band now is our intermediate band. And our top band is the Watson Brass Band. And we named that as an honor and tribute to Perry Watson, who is the founder of the Triangle Brass Band organization and also the founder of NABA, the North American Brass Band Association. And he was the director of the NC State Brass Band and professor of music at NC State. And one of the biggest American influences of starting the brass band movement in America. So it's kind of cool to be here in Raleigh and kind of just trip into the very first NABA was in Raleigh at NC State. They also did another one in '94, and that's like you kind of just jump in. It's like, oh wait, this is a really big place for, you know, for the brass band movement here in North Carolina. So, you know, so we actually, you know, solved the problem by naming the band after Perry Watson, which was, you know, something. And we got permission from the Watson family to do that before we did it, and they were very touched by that. So, you know, and that happened right after he passed away several years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. So, yeah, so that
now you
that
just need like a multi-million-dollar donor.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd start a brass band and name it Red Hat if if Red Hat wanted to sponsor one. We'd change our name for a price. That's for sure.
The Exxon Mobil Brass Band.
Yeah, the Triangle Brass Band was actually started by a grant from Capital Broadcasting, the local TV station here. So the original name, and you'll see that on the older NABA things, is the WRAL British Brass Band.
Oh, cool.
So that was the original name for the Triangle Brass Band in 1986, 87, 88. And then at some point, the funding dropped off from Capital Broadcasting, and they had to form a 501c3. So that's when they became the Triangle British Brass Band. But it's the same thing. It's just, you know, name change. Probably required a uniform change. I don't know. I wasn't around back then. That was a long time ago. Yeah, that was like 86, 87, 88, around that time. And believe it or not, I still have in the Triangle Brass Band some original members from those days that started playing in the band when Perry Watson founded it, still playing. My bass trombone player, Harvey, is the only bass trombone player that's ever sat in that chair.
Wow.
In the Triangle Brass Band. He's been playing since day one, and he's still going strong.
Great.
Yeah.
You remember that thing when you messaged us or when we were talking, I was like, we should talk about this tonight. And you messaged and I could not remember. That was it.
That was it. I remember
as soon as you started talking about the bass drum, I was like, that thing. That was the thing.
I'm not going to repeat what you said it was.
Found it.
That was, I'm sitting going, what? Was it that? No, that was not it. But yeah, that whole thing was, I figured I'd try to figure a way to work it in. And now that I have, we can probably end this podcast.